When we show grace to others in an organization, that comes back. Yeah. We ultimately help to build better careers. And when we build better careers for individuals, you build better organizations and better businesses.
The fact that you lost a job feels like you kicked me out. And I think you were touching something very, very important in humanity, which is sense of belonging. So you decided that I didn't belong anymore. You decided that I was not part of this adventure or this journey anymore. And connected to this loss, shame comes up very, very fast. Job hugging is the recipe for disaster. My recommendation is, if you can, try to find a job while you're still in the job. Anticipate as much as you can. Don't job hug, and have your destiny, your own destiny in your hand.
With all of the changes and the evolution in the marketplace today, adversity will hit careers at one point or another. It's no longer the case where people may be in the same job for 20, 30 years in their careers. Today's careers are much, much shorter because you have to be a lot more agile. So the only way that you can go about being successful through this.
Hello everyone, my name is Aya and I'm here today with my co-host Naila. Welcome to HR and Beyond. Today's episode is a little special one and we have two news to share with you. The first one is that we are wrapping up our season 1. Yes, you heard it. It's been a really great 7 months speaking with people, and thank you everyone who've been listening to us. The second news is that we decided to bring not just one guest, but 2 amazing guests to share their stories and experiences around building resilience in the uncertain time.
We're joined today not by one Vanessa, but by 2 Vanessas, both global HR leaders and co-hosts of Career Transition podcast, which actually inspired us to start ours, right, and do it together. This podcast explores the themes of reinvention, resilience in the times of change. So thank you, Vanessas, for being here with us and sharing your wisdom and experiences as we think what each of us can do when the ground shifts, when we face these uncertain times, and how we can cultivate the personal resilience and be prepared for the future, because it's here, it's tomorrow, it's now. So probably the first question, it is around uncertainty. If you think of the recent situations, what were the uncertainties you struggled with personally?
So you asked me the question around the moment where I struggled the most. It was not recently, it was 10 years ago. And it's a very personal sharing, so I hope you allow me. I actually lost my dad over 7 months. And this was a moment that tested my resilience to the maximum. I couldn't imagine having an identity of being his daughter without him. He was a sunshine. He was full of energy. He was, the person that was making everything in the room happen. So existing without him was something very difficult for me to comprehend, very difficult to accept, very difficult to imagine. So I think that this moment taught me a lot about resilience. It taught me a lot about how to find a way to recover within myself. And I think that in this moment, which is a personal moment, maybe not related to career, I think I started finding out some of the recipes around, recovery and also getting supports and getting, people around me to help me through difficult times.
Vanessa's story is very, very significant because what we face in personal lives directly impact what you go through in your careers. And we hear that all the time in the Career Transitions podcast. And having spoken to so many guests, one of the key things that we have seen is how the grieving of an identity ultimately impacts oneself. Because when you move from one role to another, whatever that role might be, the grieving of the identity before you move on to the next is a crucial transition that everybody needs to be able to face up to. In fact, we got a lot of the inspiration of the Career Transitions podcast from a book written by a really great author called Aminia Ibarra, who wrote the book Working Identity. And what she talks about is how the destabilizing of an identity happens particularly when you go through transitions, and how as you move on to that next identity, it's important to give space to grief that old identity before you take on the next. So whatever that role might be that you're taking on, whether you're moving from one job to another, from one country to take on a role in a different country, allowing that space for you to say goodbye to that previous identity before you then pick up the new skills, the new experiences to really take on the next. It's a really important part of building of that resilience, particularly in that beginning stage of a transition.
And I love the stories that you shared, both of you. And in fact, Vanessa, when you were sharing your personal story, I could resonate because this is something I'm sure everybody's going through. And recently, when I was writing a post on LinkedIn, I was contemplating whether I should share this personal story. And it was during the Mental Health Day. But as you mentioned, it affects you, right? And it then consequently affects your work, everything that you do. And it's so important to have a space, as you said. And what else helped me at that point of time is to have there was a community who you can always go back and just say, look, I'm really feeling down today, and somebody who could hold your hand and go through that moment. So
I was very lucky. I had a team at that time who was completely behind me. I was working for a fantastic organization called DFS, and I got 2 bosses who actually backed me up completely, and I wanted to work from Paris 1 week a month, and they allowed me to go back 1 week a month, and every morning in Paris I was working with Asia, and in the afternoon I was at the hospital, and that was the biggest gift an organization ever gave to me. And then I had the team members, and they said to me, we are going to show up for you, and for 6 months everyone has given a little bit more time, because I was not able to do more than 6 hours a day during that week, to actually, demonstrate me their affection, their respect. And I was very, very touched. And I think that in this process, which I felt, was something that I had not, even if it's very naive, anticipated, because I don't think I was ready. No one is ready for these things. I think I've started, really thinking very deep about what resilience means and how personal it can be, and I think it made me a much stronger HR, because when people came to my office, sometimes in tears, sometimes, even men, almost teary, telling me, this is what is happening, and I need some help, I need some support, I need some flexi time, I need something. I think my way of answering them was most probably a little bit more humane than it would have been otherwise.
And driven by our own experiences, and also the experiences of what you just said, the network of people around us. And I truly believe too that when we show grace to others in an organization, that comes back. We ultimately help to build better careers. And when we build better careers for individuals, you build better organizations and better businesses. So I think it's really the purpose that both of us have deep inside as well. We as HR professionals help to build more resilient careers by really being better HR professionals for others.
And by being human, we're all showing up at work as human beings, right? Like we're not changing masks every day. So you started talking about this, Vanessa, what resilience means for you. Maybe you can elaborate on it. What is resilience for you, and what it is not?
That's a very good question. I think resilience for me, number one, it needs to be very personal. You cannot have one size fits all. So everyone will have different ways of showing up, to the task, to the challenge, to the situation. I also reflected a lot recently when I was doing research for SUSS on impactful leadership, about self-regulation. And I reread for the 3rd time a book that I really recommend to everyone, which is EQ 0.20, which is from Daniel Goleman. And he is a psychologist, he's a very eminent psychologist, and he talks a lot about self-regulation. And I think this is very, very powerful in the context of resilience. I think a lot of times when we feel that we are, under the weather, or we feel we are having a moment of doubt, the first thing that we need to take care of is ourselves. And I think the moments where we disappoint ourselves is that we sometimes forget to take care of ourselves before we take care of others. So we, in my HR experience, I always use the idea of using the oxygen mask on yourself
first,
like before you give it to others, which is a little bit counterintuitive. And I think for people in human resources, it's not easy. We are usually very, very people-oriented. We are usually very much like what I call generals, generals souls, generals people. But I think in resilience, first thing first is really taking good care of yourself and having this moment of reflection, like introspection.
On the Career Transitions podcast, we in fact have a number of guests who spoke on this topic. Jean Belfort being one, Gaston Smith in both season 1 guests who really talked about the importance of surrounding yourself also with individuals who can support you, the importance of compassion, the importance of taking mindful moments for yourself, because that ultimately helps to build the inner strength that you need in order to be able to run that distance. So both of them also talked about the community that you need to surround yourself with, right? The right people who can help you to have that inward look on yourself. And it's not to say you remain there forever, but it's meant to be a pause for you to gain that strength so that you can then move that distance. So taking care of yourself before you take care of others.
Do you think resilience is something which can be trained as a muscle? And I'm actually asking in a context of Singapore. Yeah, like Singapore is pretty safe, organized. There are not a lot of external things where people grow up with that you have to hustle or show resilience as you grow up. Like versus I'm thinking in Kazakhstan, yeah, sometimes basic safety wasn't there. So you're just used to living this way. So in a context of developed countries and economies, what can people do? And can they actually develop this? I really like it, introspection, self-regulation, having community. But very often we tend to stay in our comfort zone, right? Like versus trying something new.
One of the things I've used, and we use a lot together, and I found it very powerful because she's a person I'm totally safe with all the time, is the concept of debriefing. I think debriefing, I mean, this is something I've learned as well from VFS. We were doing a lot of training with the, people who had worked in the army and return on experience. And they were telling us what makes a huge difference in the army is that for every exercise, whether it's real or not, we always debrief what happened. And we always do it as a team. And they were teaching us how to do this return on experience as a team. And I've kept the concept very, very big in my mind, and I've used it, with people like Vanessa, I'm totally safe with, and I've used it with my HR team or with the leaders with whom I work. When you go through a meeting that is high stake, no matter what happened, no matter what, whether it was very, very good or just okay or you just passed, I think having this moment with your team members to debrief on what happened, to understand what is your perspective on it? What is your lens on it? What did you feel? What did you see? Is very, very powerful. Because there are so many times where I miss the context.
It's the iteration process. You don't need to get it right the first time. And that's how we've also seen building resilience. And it's also building resilience in adversity. You may not get it right the first time, but it's all right. Experiment with small things. So going back to your question about resilience in I guess, developing more developed cultures, I think you see different kinds of resilience that's required. With all of the changes and the evolution in the marketplace today, adversity will hit careers at one point or another. It's no longer the case where people may be in the same job for 20, 30 years in their careers. Today's careers are much, much shorter because you have to be a lot more agile. So the only way that you can go about being successful through this career marathon is to build these moments of resilience. And you can do it by some of the things that we've just talked about, having the self-compassion, the mindfulness, the mindful spaces, also looking back. But also through our research in the Career Transitions podcast, we talk a lot also about building career portfolios to help you to build the resilience for future. So what do we mean by career portfolios? What we mean by career portfolios mean you don't just have that one thing that you build that identity on, but what you do is you also build multiple identities in work. What are your passion projects? What are the things that energize you? Are there opportunities that you can experiment, that you can do a short-term assignment, that you can do a side gig? All of these help to build multiple identities that can ultimately help you through tough times through adversity in career lifespan to build those moments of resilience that if one thing doesn't quite work out, it's all right. I have the agility. I've experimented with something else. I can quickly pivot to do something else. And that's, I think longer term, what we hope for professionals, that you're not just building that one thing, but you can have an extension of your identity to build other things around that main identity so that ultimately you're going to be better. You're better as a professional and you can build a longer, more sustainable career.
Yeah. It totally makes sense because I was reading actually that 72% of Singaporeans feel burnt out. And I think a lot of it is because your identity is so much rooted in your work, right? And what you do. But if you are intentional and mindful and you have other interests and passions, and not everything is tied to this one thing you're doing, it definitely mentally can help you.
I have just a question around this because interestingly, so I do work with a lot of HRs, right? And somehow it feels that right now there are a lot of senior good HRs, right, that have been redundant at their job, right? And it's been sudden for them. It's completely out of blue, and they were doing very well, in my opinion. And I guess, and I love what you shared, Vanessa, in terms of yes, you need to build your identity beyond your work. But when it comes to this work, and this has been, especially if there's financial pressure, right? This has been the main income that you've been, relying on. I wonder what else can you do, because it gives still so much stress, financial stress especially.
I think one of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently is removing something that I think is very, very prevalent in Asia, which is the idea of shame related to redundancies. There are many, many jobs that are going away these days that have absolutely nothing to do with performance. And we have been through a couple of crises, the two of us. We have seen I've seen the SARS crisis in Hong Kong, and then there was the subprime crisis, 2008, 2009, and then there was the COVID crisis again. And I think for me, what I've learned from this crisis, and it happened very early in my career, is that in 2003, there was nothing we could do to read the resume when it came to 2003 or 2008, 2009 or 2020, because these were moments that were so full of uncertainty and so full of basically messy situations that someone very good, like what you say, could lose their job just because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But what I found really, really extraordinary is that no matter what we do, no matter what we say, this concept of stigma, this concept of shame is very, very prevalent when it comes to redundancy. And I've been trained by the best of the best. I mean, one of the best school I like very much. And we interviewed one of their team members, is LHH. We had one of their CEOs on the podcast. They actually take a lot of care when they prepare organization to do layoffs. They train us, they train the HR team, they train the hiring manager. They've got guides. They've got so much in their toolbox that is so useful to us HR professional. But no matter what you say to people, the truth of the matter is the fact that you lost the job feels like you kicked me out. And I think you were touching on something very, very important in humanity, which is sense of belonging. So you decided that I didn't belong anymore. You decided that I was not part of this adventure or this journey anymore. And connected to this loss of belonging, shame comes up very, very fast. I cannot talk to my partner, I cannot talk to my family about it. This is not something that people should know. I've seen headhunters telling me, you should advise these people not to mention the truth. And I'm like, but on which planet are we? I mean, at the end of the day, it's in the newspaper. It's in the Straits Times. This company, unfortunately, for economic reason, had to do some layoffs. Why on earth should they hide the truth, right? So I think the first thing I would recommend people to do is really to reflect on this idea of shame, because the shame is coming from something very natural, very humane, but it's what you fear of the look of others.
Yeah, thinking I'm not good enough. Why it was me?
Exactly. So you are actually panicked because you're thinking, if I come into this place, into this dinner, into this breakfast, and I say to people that I've lost my job, they are going to ask themselves the question, what did he or what did she do? And now we're very much used to the fact that it can happen to any of us.
Exactly.
But they're still, having, and I think also in the Asian cultures, we have also this sense of, I feel it very strongly. The fact that we want our family to be proud of us. We want, the family to be, proud of what we have achieved. So I would recommend the first thing, which is really to reflect on what is exactly the stigma and which is a deep reflection. We were talking about introspection is a deep moment of introspection, but what exactly do you fear? And if you fear the look of others, then remove this fear, because at the end of the day, what really matters is the look you have on yourself. And if you are honest to yourself and you are, having the intellectual honesty with yourself, you know that the reason why you move from this situation of having a job to not having a job has nothing to do with your performance, and it's just being in the wrong time at the wrong place, all these kind of things. So this is the type of advice. I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but I feel very strongly about, reflecting on the shame and reflecting on this look of others on yourself.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. And in fact, I think it probably applicable not just for the job loss. It could be maybe when you had some failure on life, or maybe it's you didn't accomplish your project at work, right? This actually, stays with you, and it just keeps building. And instead of, I guess, shaming yourself, it's as you said, it's good to reflect and understand where it's coming from. And we are all human, right? We do mistakes, and just allow yourself to do even that mistake.
Yeah. It is an important moment actually to reframe the opportunity. I think what Vanessa talked about, this piece about shame, I think it deserves a space when you are grieving through a process of transition to allow the space to grieve. But just as that grieving cycle hits that bottom, you've got to also be able to find a moment where you're able to reframe such that you're able to also climb out of that moment to see this as an opportunity. What is that opportunity that's in there for you? What is that opportunity to reflect? And also then to reimagine and reframe what the future could be like. And through our interviews on the Career Transitions podcast, and also in our experiences as HR professionals, we've seen some of the most successful transitions are those who actually seize the opportunity in that moment to reinvent themselves. Who can I be? Without the chains of my previous organization locked to me anymore, who am I? Who can I be? What is that opportunity actually to showcase the very best of my strengths? And sometimes it is an opportunity to also ask yourself, do I still want to go back and do the same old thing? Or is this an opportunity for me to experiment with one of my other side gigs? Is this an opportunity where I open up and say, what is the brand of Vanessa? And what else can I do? Are there other side gigs, other experiments, other opportunities that I can actually seize as an opportunity to do something different and meaningful as part of your career? And something to always remember is that your career is a long lifespan, easily a 30 to 40 year lifespan. So if you're in the middle of that career and you're facing that transitional moment to pivot, yes, you may have other commitments. There may be financial commitments. There may be other kinds of commitments. Within the boundaries of your commitment, what more can you be doing that is other than jumping back into the same thing? Is this an opportunity for you to reinvent yourself, to do something different? That's why I think even more so this topic on resilience is so important, because don't just wait for that moment to happen. You have the opportunity now, if you're in a job, start building that career portfolio, start building that brand for who you are.
Yeah, and it's definitely relevant. It's not only restructuring, right? We also see how AI is reshifting the workplace, the way we live. And I was reading that 6 out of 10 Singaporeans actually believe that their job will either disappear or change as a result of AI. So I'm curious if you see how mindset of people is changing through that. Like, do you see people actually taking action as the market shifts? And probably what would be your advice? Like, what are the actions each of us can take? Because it is coming inevitably. Like, we know things will change. We know there will be more restructurings. To your point, if before it was quite rare, now we see organization change every 6-9 months.
How headhunter friends are such agent friends. They tell us that people are very much into the job hugging part of the situation.
Yes, I like
hugging.
Job hugging.
Yeah, job hugging. So they stay in the jobs that they might not like very much. And this is also something that impacts engagement. If you look at the engagement, yesterday I was very fortunate to attend Josh Bersin's presentation in the Linking Connect, and he was talking about the fact that engagement is so low. I mean, it's so dramatically low to see this engagement, and every year it's going down, and it's a worldwide phenomenon. I personally think that this is the other way around. I think job hugging is the recipe for disaster. I mean, personally, because I've seen so many people actually staying too long in jobs that they didn't like or where they didn't learn anymore.
Yeah.
And they were not growing, and they were basically, getting jaded or getting cynical. I think cynicism, which is not that often in Asia because we are usually very much focused on growth and development, but when cynicism kicks in, and I can see it as a global HR person very often, this is the moment where I'm thinking, this is the time for the person to have most probably internal mobility, to move on to something different, because cynicism is the sign for me that the person has reached the ceiling, and they start being negative about something that they should maybe not be negative. So my recommendation would be really to take this opportunity to open, like what you say, open yourself to other opportunities. I think that if you are doing a shift while you are in the job, you are in a position of power, because you need to realize that one of the maybe some of the situations that your friends have faced is also the fact that when you're out of the job, you might actually experience some pay cuts. You might experience some change of income because people think you're desperate, which you're not, but they might actually use the desperation against you. So my recommendation is, if you can, try to find a job while you're still in the job. Anticipate as much as you can. Don't job hug, and have your destiny, your own destiny in your hands. I think agency is the word of the year. I believe that agency will be the word of the year 2026. Yeah. I mean, among the people we have met, the word agency in the last 6 weeks have come up, I think, for 49 times. So this is really maybe the word of the year for 2026. I believe that when you are in the driver's seat, your perspective, your mindset is completely different. Yeah. You are the one who is calling the shot. You are the ones deciding, this is for me, this is not for me. You are the one also saying to, like search agent, you know what, I'm getting bored. I'm not learning anything. Yeah. Find me something else. Or you are finding internal opportunities when you talk to your HR person, maybe in a more diplomatic way, saying that, you know what, find me another opportunity for me to demonstrate my potential. Yeah. So I think, I would say it's almost counterintuitive. Instead of job hugging, I would say take your own destiny in your hands and create opportunities like what Vanessa said.
The other thing, and I see this as a practical step that people can take, is to start building your network. Sometimes we say your network is your net worth, right? And I don't mean this from a perspective of just going out there and calling anybody, but really making some meaningful connections. Because ultimately, when you're in a position where you're looking to make a career transition, whether voluntary or involuntary, oftentimes it is the people who you know who can help to open up a pathway for you. And I don't just mean that from giving you another job, but it could be giving you an option to consider something else. Or they could be the person who gives you an idea that leads to another and leads to another. So start building your network. Now, what do I mean by that? It doesn't have to be just going to a networking event. No. If you think about the people in your sphere of influence, start with those who are closest to you, right? It could be the people in your office who you don't always have lunch with every day. It's the next concentric circle. Who are those that you wish you would be able to get to know more, but you haven't had the opportunity to? So start with those people. A very simple coffee, lunch. That already helps you to break the barriers of your everyday lunch crowd, and it already gives you the next circle of influence. Then beyond that, who are some people who you admire, or who are some contacts from a long time ago who's made an influence on your life one way or another? Can you call them out for a coffee? Can you go out and meet them just to have lunch and to reconnect? And it's amazing the number of people and that circle of influence that you can continue to expand. And when you do that with your heart, when you do that with the real intention of really wanting to find out more about how other people are doing, just to reconnect, when you finally do need help for something, you're going to find that there are more people than you expect who will be ready to come to your assistance, ready to come to your support. And it's through those connections and those relationships that I think can really help you. So if you're someone who who doesn't like to network, it's okay. Just open up your phone book. Open up your phone book on your phone and see who it is on your Rolodex of names that you would want to give a call to. And you'll be amazed at that level of connection that you can reestablish.
I 100% agree with you, Vanessa. I feel like a lot of times maybe we only start networking when we need it, but then it feels so transactional.
Yes.
But if you do it as it goes and with heart, with curiosity, it can actually bring so much more meaningful, relationship and connection. And you never know when this connection will be needed. So
Yeah.
100%
Yes.
agree.
Like how we met the two of you.
Yeah, totally.
Just yesterday. Celebrating your
Well, we were actually
podcast now.
in discussions for months, I think.
Yeah.
But really excited to meet you in person.
So like on your own personal level, you both have been through multiple transitions in your lives. For yourselves, with the transitions you had, how did it change how you look at success and look at also what positive this change brought, even though in the beginning probably it didn't seem as something positive?
So I remember very clearly moving to DFS, and when I moved to DFS, I actually I inherited a double hat job, and I was appointed as the HR director of the Hong Kong International Airport on top of the Asia North role that I had. So I was originally supposed to take care of a region, and I ended up within a couple of weeks having 50% of my time being the HR director of a massive operation of 1,150 people. And I started working with this gentleman, and he knows who he is, and he was the leader of the airport. And he was trained as a general in the army, assistant general in the army. And I remember going to the airport in Hong Kong, and I just came out of maternity leave. And he wanted his meeting to start at 7:30 a.m., which meant that I had to leave my place and I had to feed my son, before 6:15. And it was a nightmare. I was feeling like I was in a daze. I was thinking to myself, I will never be able to make it. I'm going to resign. And then, it turned out to be the best experience in my life. And this gentleman, I call him every month. He is one of the best leaders I've ever worked with. He's my mentor. He's my friend. And actually, what I got from this experience is the idea that going through one day at a time was actually the best solution that I created for myself, and it stayed with me.
Yeah.
Because I think I was scared. I was scared of what? I was scared of not being in line with his expectation. I was scared of not meeting his expectation. He was a person who had a very strong sense of work ethics, discipline. He had learned the hard way in the military. And I had never worked for the military, and I think it was my own fear of failure. And the only way I managed to survive was, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to take it one day at a time. And the fact that I go back home and I put myself in the bed will be a victory. Which was, when I said that to my husband, he said, my God, your level of ambition has really decreased. And I used this for 6 months. And after 6 months, I think I earned his trust. I earned his respect. I think he never expected, to have an HR director working with him as a young mommy or as a, he was used to the military style HR person. I don't know. And then, our relationship and our collaboration was one of the best I've ever had in my career. So this is, sometimes you need to let the moment actually, emotion pass. This is something that we remind ourselves all the time. When you're sad, the next day you won't be sad the same way, even when you are very, very sad. I think it's the same with transition. You feel like this is going to be
the worst
forever,
the
the worst job ever in your career. But a couple of weeks later, a couple of months later, you're on top of the world. You have the best leader on the planet. And 20 years later, I don't know if it's 20 years, but 15 years later, you can call him, at a drop of a hat every every day when you need advice. And he's still in my life.
Yeah. In fact, those are some of the most significant relationships you end up building. It's when you get to work in a very, very tough environment. And I still remember when I made the first transition into HR. So I didn't start my career in HR, I was actually in the business. But I had a fantastic opportunity to transition into HR when I was in China. And I remember that was such a fearful moment that when I was asked if I would take on the role, I actually said, I'm not sure I'm your right person for this. There are many other people who are better than this. But there was someone, or maybe a few people, who took a chance on me, who saw something I didn't see, but who also encouraged me by giving me the network of support, who assured me that they will be there to help me with the landmines ahead of me, and who would be there to support me in more ways than one. And these are those moments where you know that the mission is bigger than yourself, and it's okay to take that moment of risk because you know that you're well supported by great people. You know that you're supported also by a team of others who are also there to hopefully help you to be successful. But it gives you the energy to learn the job, learn it fast, and get on your feet quickly, and to reframe the challenge. The challenge isn't about, I'm not good enough for this, but the challenge is, some people have placed the trust in me, and I'm going to do my darnest. And it really is, when I think back about all of these stories that we're just sharing, it's about the network of people who surround you and who are there to support you. But it's also you being out there to build that extended network of individuals who can ultimately help to support in your growth and in your transition. So I continue to be in touch with all these great individuals, leaders, peers, direct team members who've worked with me, and they continue to be a part of my professional life and personal life in many cases too.
And they are so familiar to you and you told me so much about them that some of them, I've never met them, and then I see them for the first
hear
time.
their stories, right?
And then they look at me and say, "Do you know me?" I say, "Oh yeah, I know you by heart."
Okay.
So going back to the purpose, and I want to talk a little bit more about your podcast, Career Transition.
Yeah.
So congratulations on the milestone. You hit, I think, more than 10,000 downloads and have 5 successful seasons and about to launch your 6th one. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, if there are people that know how much work it requires, it's Naila and myself for sure. So could you please tell us a bit more about that in terms of what inspired you to start this journey, right? I guess what are the key takeaways after, was it 5 years? Or how many years since you've launched?
3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
3 years from the point that we started thinking about this. We started the podcast really driven by a deep sense of purpose for the community. When we first started thinking about this podcast 3 years ago, it was right at coming to the end of the pandemic. And we were experiencing so much change in the marketplace, whether it was organizations restructuring, whether it was people who were suddenly out of jobs because of the effects of the pandemic. And we personally felt a deep sense of purpose in wanting to help the community, wanting to provide a sense of safety, a platform where people can come and listen to other experts beyond ourselves. And we felt that through this podcast, we would be able to help professionals as they navigate through different transitions in career, whether big transitions or small transitions. These are significant moments that require you to pause, to reflect, but more importantly, to have tools to help you to move ahead. So through our podcast, we meet so many great business leaders, individuals who've been through transitions themselves. We also meet some of the leading authors, researchers, and people who've really spent time thinking about this topic on transitions, but also thinking about the future of work. And through that, we've learned so much from them, but also learning also that the knowledge that we put out there is benefiting others has been a tremendous joy to both of us.
Thank you to you from a grateful listener. I'm listening to your podcast when I commute to work and from work. Yes, so definitely recommend to everyone. It's very insightful and really great range of guests, like from academics, authors, business practitioners. So you synthesize very well different points of view. As you're such a great duo and we see your dynamism and energy in action, can you just say one word how you would describe each other and the biggest strengths of each other?
Very difficult. She's the best version of myself.
Okay, it's 3. We take it.
She's a sister from a different mother.
Also 3 words. Amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, ladies. This has been so insightful, and we are so grateful to wrap up our season 1 with 2 of you. So thank you for your time. And to all listeners, we will be back soon in a few months' time. So until then, take care. That's all for today's episode of HR and Beyond.
Please subscribe, follow, and recommend us to your friends and colleagues.
We would love to hear your thoughts or questions. Connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a message.
As we say in Kazakhstan,
Alga, which means onward. Take care, and until next time.